Catus Maximus here. This time I'm doing a quick review and comparison of the Harbor Freight Doyle 10-inch high leverage cable cutters. These are the super sharp cutters that are for cutting soft materials only. Definitely no steel cutting, and the nature of these types of cutters is they're very sharp jaws as well as them being arced, so when you cut wire and cable it doesn't smash and damage the end quite as badly. They're also much easier to use because of that sharp edge, and I figured I'd compare the Doyles against a real common and respected brand, the Kleins, the 63050. These Doyles are the 63827. So Harbor Freight's come out with some new hand tools that are much higher quality than what Harbor Freight's had recently. They have their Quinn, and then they have this more premium Doyle brand. The Doyles were 20 bucks. They believe these Kleins run about $35. That'd be retail pricing. On Harbor Freight, you can always dig up coupons. If we do a quick cursory kind of comparison and look here, we can see that these Doyles actually have a pretty smooth forging on them. They are pretty nice. One difference is that the steel is just a little bit thicker than the Kleins. I have no idea about the actual grade of steel. I suspect the Kleins are a little bit better of a tool steel. The other thing I was going to mention, if we look at it this way, is that we can really see that the jaws or the release for the cutting edge are a bit steeper on the Doyles, where the Kleins, it's a really smooth tapered edge. If we look inside there, we can see remnants of the forging, and it isn't quite as smooth as the Kleins. They also do a single grind where they just grind the face in one direction, or on the Kleins they do a real proper crosshatch grind on the surface. This crosshatch is a more accurate form of grinding because you're coming at it from two different angles, and that prevents any kind of bowing or arcing or any kind of, if there's any kind of uneven wear on the grinding wheel, it will also help compensate for that. So this type of grinding is a little bit cheaper because if the grinding wheel isn't perfect, then there may be a little section that's a little too deep, and so that will be present when you cut wire and cable. These types of cutters are always great for cutting anything, generally speaking, such as wire loom. Just because these things are so sharp, they always just make really nice square cuts. They tend to do pretty well even on things like this nylon string here. They're really just so sharp that they'll cut that even without the little fibers, or maybe one or two little fibers getting stuck in the jaws. These are the types of cutters that are notorious for somebody inevitably cutting something steel, and on these fine edges they will easily get dinged and get a little divot in there, and so you got to watch these pretty closely. And that's kind of what made me get these Harbor Freights, these Doyles. They were only 20 bucks, and you kind of have a more beater pairs that you don't feel too bad when they get damaged. They do advertise a lifetime warranty on them, but I don't know how generous they're going to be if the jaws are just all torn up from obvious misuse. If you are cutting aluminum wire with these, aluminum is actually pretty strong. And these types of cutters do cut a thinner gauge of aluminum than they will in copper, just because as they start diving down into a deep cut, the chamfer will start to want to push the jaws together, and really thick cross-section aluminum, it can be enough to deform these. One thing I was going to say is, surprisingly enough, I kind of like the grip on the Doyles a little better than the Kleins. The Kleins are obviously very high quality. As far as how much spring is in the handle, how rigid they feel, they're right about the same. It really couldn't tell. But the Klein handles are a little bit more narrow, and they're a little bit sharper corners where they're squared off, just a little bit thicker on the Doyles, and a little bit more curvature on the edges. The Doyles actually have just a little bit more modern, more comfortable of a grip. And when it comes to these, I doubt we'll really be able to see a difference. Here's a piece of automotive hose. These things are great for automotive hoses because you just get such a nice cut. We'll do one cut with the Kleins there. That's the Klein cut. I doubt we'll be able to see. And we'll do one cut with the Doyles. Maybe a little bit more curvature or concave too. Let's see if I can get the right. I think it's like this. There's the difference between the two of them. Pretty much the same. And we'll do one last comparison before I end this review. They'll obviously cut thick cable and copper wire, but what's probably a good test is this right here. This is a high definition digital analog broadcast cable. This is the kind of cable that's tethered to studio cameras used in TV studios like your local news station. And so this is a very complex set of wires where there's thicker power conductors, we have coaxial video conductors, we have signaling wires, we have digital communication wires, we have a thick polyester fill. So a variety of different wires, and it'll really show if there's any real cutting performance difference between the Kleins and the Doyles here. And we'll just go ahead and start off with the Doyles. And we'll cut a bit far down, maybe 1.5 inches, so that the wires will kind of stay in place and give us an honest cut. And this type of cable, that polyester, is notorious. It's super fine, and they actually did a pretty good job. There was just a few little strands that would happen to be right on the edge. Come on, camera. Right on the edge, which is really kind of difficult. So one of the jaws kind of hit that, and then the rest, the upper jaw or the opposite jaw cut all the way through. And so with this kind of wire and cable, this is real notorious to get cutters, and this whole section here just won't be cut at all. So that was just fine. And as you can see, that is indeed a pretty complicated wire in there. And let's go ahead and do the Kleins. And we'll do it in the exact same position here, so we'll see if the Kleins do any better about the packing there. And surprisingly enough, they did. Just that little bit of a difference in angle and a little bit better of a grind. Surprisingly enough, the Kleins just went right through that, no problem. Is that there may be not even a single fiber. So in this one weird little test, but on a complicated cable, the Kleins did do a little bit better. I know I have too wordy over reviews. I kind of want to try that again just with these pieces. Now, there's the Doyles. They did that. I've had these Kleins for years, so they're actually not totally brand new. I just take care of them and oil them. No, the Kleins actually do cut it. So that's what I'd say is maybe not quite the same cutting performance as a really good set of Klein heavy-duty wire and cable cutters. But for $20, I'd still recommend them because they do have good handles on them. You do have a lifetime warranty. You can just walk in and replace them at Harbor Freight. And then these types of cutters are really just pretty nice and handy to have. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.